Joining me now is Labor Senator Jenny McAllister. First of all, on the BCA, not just the BCA, I would say Bill Kelty as well, saying that this government doesn't have a reform agenda and is not imaginative. Do you have any evidence to the contrary?
Thanks, Laura. Well, I've seen the comments, of course, from the BCA and also from Mr Kelty today, and I'd make these points. We have come to government, in fact, with an ambitious and imaginative agenda for a future made in Australia, and that is one of the bills that is before the Senate this week. It's a bill that seeks to set out the role that Australia could play in a world that's decarbonising, producing the critical minerals, the clean energy products for transport overseas that will actually not just help our own country decarbonise, but help our region decarbonise. Now, we pay attention, of course, to our relationship with the business community, and we value the role that the business community plays in all of this. In fact, I would say that amongst my colleagues, we think really carefully about the ways that we can work collaboratively with business leaders, with business generally, on problems that we perceive across the economy where we actually think that a shared approach offers the chance to unlock some solutions.
Well, business haven't had many wins, though, during this term of the Labor government. I mean, they're talking about IR changes, which have been comprehensive, red tape, which hasn't been cut, and taxes. I mean, what wins have they had? Perhaps they've, convinced Chris Bowen that gas is part of the medium term, but that's really the only thing I can point to. Can you think of anything else?
Well, I don't really think we should think about it in terms of winning or losing. Our job as a government is to actually make decisions that are in the national interest. And I can point to plenty of decisions that we've taken or are projects we are working on with the business community. Okay. As a small example, in my own portfolio, I'm really conscious that insurance affordability is a key issue for Australians. That's an issue, an area of interest that is shared with the insurance sector. We're working collaboratively with them on how we can reduce the risks that Australians are exposed to and put downward pressure on insurance premiums. And there are examples like that across every portfolio. We seek a collaborative approach. It doesn't mean that we'll agree on everything. Of course, it would be odd if we did. But we are looking for a collaborative, constructive relationship with business, and I'm really confident that's the way all my
Is it collaborative and constructive as well when it comes to housing? I mean, we have the coalition and the Greens opposed to big elements of the bill, but politics is the art of the possible. What do you see as possible here?
This is one of the really disappointing things about what is happening in the Senate this week, to be honest, Laura, because we have the Master Builders Australia, Shelter, one of the community organisations, the Housing Industry Association, saying that our approach to housing, these bills are good bills that should be passed. What we don't have is an agreement from either the Liberals or the Greens to put these bills into place, despite the fact that there is no rational evidence being brought forward by either of them to block them. And this is the thing. We want to build, they want to block. And it's a problem because their interest in both cases appears to be maintaining political differentiation with Labor at the cost of the many, many tens of thousands of Australians who are depending on this legislation going through.
Yeah, I think you're right. There's certainly a political element to all of that. But again, it's the art of the possible. So would you split some of these elements out of the bill, or is this the bulk of it that you're not willing to compromise on?
Look, this bill has been in the Parliament for 200 days. There have been plenty of occasions to talk and to compromise. But at the end of the day, we are proposing a bill that
That's
will help
right. It's more than 200 days. Has it just not been a priority?
I wouldn't accept that at all. What there hasn't been is a willingness on the part of the Greens political party in particular to put aside their desire for a fight, which they think will be electorally useful to them, and actually engage with the national interest. And that's a posture that's very hard to negotiate with, because if the person you are seeking to negotiate with only seeks conflict, would prefer a conflict, was hot, unresolved, so they can go out and put memes on social media or run petitions in their local community. They don't appear to be interested in the interests of homeowners. And I really do think they ought to be held accountable for it.
Yeah.
It is not acceptable to put your electoral interest so far ahead of the national interest in a negotiation of this kind. And I think that is the only explanation for what they are doing at the moment.
It's pretty terrifying then, the prospect of a hung parliament and therefore a minority government. If Labor did get to that point, you'd need the Greens.
Well, we'll deal with the parliament that the Australian public elects, and
Doesn't
we'll do
sound
that
like you want
next
to,
term,
though.
just as we have in this term. Oh, we most certainly do, but it requires everybody to make some sensible compromises and adjustments. And nothing about the approach so far from the Greens political party suggests they're willing to do that. I mean, I make the point that a shared equity scheme was part of the 2022 election platform for the Australian Greens. And the reason they are presently putting forth for not letting this bill through the Senate is because it doesn't meet a whole lot of other unrelated Greens political policies. It's not designed to. It's designed to put in place the opportunity for a shared equity scheme that will give ordinary people, maybe an older woman who's gone through a divorce, maybe a first homeowner, the opportunity to have lower debt and a lower deposit and get into the home market sooner.
OK, we'll see where this ends up and how convincing you and your colleagues can be then. Jenny, always great to have you on the program. Good to have you back.
Thanks, Laura.